He woke to the sound of the door sliding open. Not loud, not fast, just a soft mechanical whisper like the station itself was holding its breath. The human did not move at first. Years of training had taught him that sudden motion could turn a small problem into a deadly one. He lay still on the narrow bunk, eyes half open, breathing slow and quiet. The dim blue emergency lights of the deep space station painted long shadows across the metal walls. Then he felt it, warmth leaving his body, no being taken. Something small pressed against his side, cold at first, then slowly warming. A faint shiver ran through him, not from fear but surprise. The air carried a strange scent, sharp and clean like frozen rain. A soft voice whispered near his ear. "I am sorry, I need your warmth." The human finally moved. He turned his head and saw her. She was not human, not even close. Her skin was pale, almost translucent, with faint lines glowing softly beneath it like ice catching starlight. Her eyes were large and dark, filled with fear and exhaustion. She was thin, too thin, and trembling as if the cold of space itself lived inside her bones. She was pressed against him under the thin station blanket, her body curled instinctively toward heat. He sat up slowly, careful not to scare her. "What are you doing in my quarters?" he asked, his voice calm but firm. She flinched at the sound but did not pull away. Instead, her grip tightened slightly like a child afraid to be pushed back into the dark. "I tried not to," she whispered, "but the cold came back." The human glanced toward the door panel. No alarms, no forced entry warning. That meant she had authorization or someone had forgotten to lock her down properly. That was already a problem. "Who are you?" he asked. She hesitated as if the answer itself took effort. "My name does not fit your sounds," she said, "but your people call me Refugee 7. That made his jaw tight. He hated numbers for people. She lowered her head against his shoulder, clearly struggling to stay conscious. Her skin felt cooler than the metal wall behind him. "How long have you been out there?" he asked. "Too long," she replied faintly. "The station's warmth is false. It hums, but it does not live." He didn't understand that, but he understood the way her body shook. He had seen soldiers do the same in Arctic combat zones when the heat packs failed. "Medical should have handled this," he said. "They tried," she whispered. "Pods, lamps, fields, none of it stayed." He carefully shifted, pulling the blanket tighter around both of them, more from instinct than permission. She let out a small sound, not pleasure, not relief exactly, but something close to safety. That was when the door slid open again. Red emergency lights flared to life. "Hands where I can see them," a voice shouted. The human froze. Two station security officers stood at the door, weapons raised. Behind them, a medical officer stared in shock. The human slowly lifted his hands. "She's freezing," he said. "She came here because—" "This is a violation of protocol," the medical officer snapped. "Refugee 7 is under quarantine observation." The alien lifted her head with great effort. Her eyes met the medical officer's, and for a moment the room felt painfully quiet. "I did not mean harm," she said weakly. "I only wanted to live." The human looked down at her. She was burning through energy fast. He could feel it now, like holding someone with a high fever, except the opposite. She was losing heat faster than he could give it. "She won't make it back to her room," he said. "Not like this." "That is not your decision," the medical officer replied. Before the human could respond, the alien's body stiffened. A sharp gasp escaped her lips, and the faint glow beneath her skin dimmed. "Temperature crash," the medical officer muttered. "Damn it!" The security officers hesitated. The human didn't. He wrapped his arms around her fully, pulling her close against his chest, ignoring the weapons pointed at him. "Then make it my responsibility," he said. For a long moment, no one spoke. Station alarms began to chime softly in the distance, signaling a medical emergency. The medical officer cursed under his breath. "Fine, but if command hears about this—" "They will," the human said. "I'll explain." They backed out of the room slowly, sealing the door behind them. The human stayed exactly where he was. Time passed strangely after that. Minutes blurred into hours. The station's artificial night cycle dimmed the lights further. The alien's breathing slowly steadied, though it remained shallow. Her body no longer trembled as violently. "You are warm," she murmured. He gave a small, humorless smile. "That's kind of our thing." She shifted slightly, adjusting herself closer without realizing it. Her head rested against his chest, just over his heart. "That sound," she said softly, "it helps. My heartbeat. Yes, it tells me I am not alone." The words hit him harder than he expected. He stared at the ceiling, thinking of Earth, of deserts, jungles, frozen mountains. Humans had survived them all, often with nothing but each other. "How many of your people are left?" he asked quietly. She was silent for a long time. "Not many," she finally said. "We learned to rely on machines, they forgot how to care." He understood that too. A sharp beep broke the quiet. His wrist communicator lit up. "Soldier," came the voice of command, cold and controlled. "Explain why a quarantined alien is in your quarters." He closed his eyes briefly. "She needed warmth," he said simply. Silence. "That is not a valid scientific answer." "Then your science is missing something," he replied. Another pause. "Medical reports show her vitals are stabilizing," Command admitted, "against expectations." "She told you," he said. "Machines hum, people live." The alien stirred at the sound of his raised voice. Her fingers tightened slightly in his shirt. "Please," she whispered, "do not be punished for me." He looked down at her, surprised. "You understand punishment?" he asked. She nodded weakly. "I have watched." He exhaled slowly. "Command," he said, "with respect, if you remove her now, she dies." The communicator stayed silent for a long time. Finally, Command spoke again. "This arrangement is temporary." "That's fine," the human said. "So is survival." The connection cut. The human leaned back against the wall, exhaustion catching up with him. He had broken protocol. He might face consequences later, but the alien was alive. Outside his quarters, the station remained cold, efficient, and silent. Inside, for the first time since leaving Earth, the human felt something else. Purpose. The alien sighed softly, no longer whispering in fear, but in rest. She slept. And the human stayed awake, holding the warmth that the galaxy had forgotten how to give. Morning on the station did not come with sunlight. It came with a slow shift in the lights, from deep blue to pale white, and the soft hum of systems changing cycles. The human had not slept. He sat against the wall, back stiff, arms still around the alien. His muscles ached, but he did not move. Every time he adjusted even a little, her breathing changed, becoming shallow and uneven. So he stayed still. She slept more deeply now. Her skin no longer looked like frozen glass. The faint lines beneath it glowed again, soft and steady. Her body was warm, not human warm, but no longer dangerously cold. A quiet knock sounded at the door. He tensed. "Medical," a voice said, low and careful. "We are not armed." The human pressed the panel with his free hand. The door slid open just enough. The medical officer from the night before stepped inside, followed by a tall alien scientist with 4 thin arms and metallic implants along its neck. Behind them stood a station guard, weapon lowered. They stopped when they saw her. "She is stable," the scientist said slowly, disbelief clear in its tone. "Her core temperature has normalized." "Because she's not alone," the human replied. The medical officer checked a scanner, keeping distance. "This goes against everything we know about her species." "That's the problem," the human said. "You only know what your machines tell you." The alien stirred. Her eyes opened slowly, unfocused at first. When she realized where she was, her body stiffened in panic. Then she felt the human's steady presence and relaxed again. "You stayed," she whispered. "Yeah," he said quietly. "I stayed." The scientist stepped closer. "Refugee 7, can you speak?" She nodded weakly. "Yes." "Explain," the scientist said. "Why does this human prevent your thermal collapse?" She thought for a long moment, choosing words carefully. "Your technology makes heat," she said, "but it does not share it, it does not respond. His body listens." The scientist's implants flickered. "That is not a measurable factor." She looked at the scientist with tired eyes. "Then you are measuring the wrong things." The room fell silent. The medical officer exhaled slowly. "Command wants her moved to a controlled environment." The human's grip tightened slightly, protective without being aggressive. "She won't survive it," he said. The alien nodded. "I have already died like that," she whispered. "Once." That made everyone still. The scientist tilted its head. "Explain." "My people used to survive winters by closeness," she said. "Shared warmth, shared presence. Long ago we replaced that with systems, rooms, pods. We forgot the old ways." The medical officer lowered the scanner. "You're saying physical proximity is essential." "Yes," she replied, "but not just physical, emotional calm, trust." The human looked down at her, surprised. "That matters too," she gave a small, weak nod. "Fear burns warmth faster than cold." No one spoke for several seconds. Finally, the medical officer turned to the guard. "Stand down." The guard obeyed. This will cause problems, the medical officer said to the human. Political ones. Everything worth doing does, the human replied. Later that cycle, command summoned him. He sat alone in the briefing chamber, hands folded, posture straight. Across the table, three figures appeared as holograms, human admirals and alien representatives, their faces serious. You violated quarantine, one admiral said. You ignored direct medical protocol. She's alive, the human replied. Because of it. An alien representative leaned forward. You exposed yourself to unknown biological risks. Yes, he said simply. And would you do it again? The admiral asked. The human did not hesitate. Yes. The silence that followed was heavy. Finally, the alien representative spoke. Our scans confirm her survival curve has reversed completely. Another added, if removed from the human, she deteriorates within minutes. The admiral sighed. You understand what this means? It means she's not a problem, the human said. Your methods are. Command ended the meeting with no punishment. Yet, word spread quickly through the station. Humans whispered in mess halls. Aliens observed from corners, eyes thoughtful, curious, unsettled. Refugee 7 became something else, not a specimen, but a question. Why humans? Why warmth? Why now? That night alarms screamed, not medical, combat. The station shuddered as something struck the outer hull. Emergency lights flared red. Gravity flickered. The human was on his feet instantly, pulling on his uniform with one hand, the other steadying the alien. What is happening? She asked, fear rising. Raiders, he said, probably smelled relief supplies. The station shook again harder. He activated his communicator. I need a secure location. Negative, command replied. Boarding action, multiple breaches. The alien looked at him, eyes wide. You will leave me. No, he said firmly. You must, she insisted. Your duty, my duty is to keep people alive, he said. That includes you. A blast rocked the corridor outside. Metal screamed, smoke poured in. The temperature dropped sharply. She gasped, clutching his arm. Cold, she whispered. It is too fast. He wrapped his jacket around her and pulled her close. Stay with me. They moved through the corridor together, alarms echoing. Raiders, tall, armored figures with glowing weapons, forced their way inside, shouting in harsh, unfamiliar tones. The human stepped between her and them without thinking. One raider raised its weapon. The alien cried out. Something strange happened. The air seemed to thicken. A pressure rolled outward from her, invisible but powerful. The raiders staggered, clutching their heads. Humans nearby froze, stunned by a wave of emotion, fear, sorrow, longing. What is that? Someone shouted. I did not mean to, the alien whispered, horrified. I cannot stop it. The human tightened his grip. It's okay, breathe. The pressure faded. The raiders fled, disoriented and shaken. Station defenses kicked in moments later, driving them out completely. Afterward, the corridor was silent except for heavy breathing. Humans stared. Aliens stared. The alien collapsed against the human, exhausted. Later, in the medical wing, command reviewed the data. That was a broadcast, an alien scientist said. A psychic emission. Triggered by stress, another added. Amplified by proximity to the human. What did it transmit? The admiral asked. The room went quiet. Need, the scientist said. Loss, the desire to survive together. Command looked at the human on the screen, holding the alien's hand gently as medics worked around them. Send a message to the council, the admiral said. All of them? What message? An officer asked. The admiral's voice was grave. Humans are not just fighters, he said. They are anchors. In the quiet of recovery, the alien woke again. The human was still there. You protected me, she said softly. He shrugged. You did the same for me in your own way. She studied him, eyes clearer now than ever before. My people are watching, she said. They felt it. Felt what? That we are not alone anymore. Outside the room, the station was busy with repairs, politics, fear, and wonder. Inside, something small and powerful had changed, not through weapons, not through orders, but through warmth freely given and quietly returned. The station did not sleep after the raid. Repair drones moved like insects along the outer hull. Engineers worked in shifts that blurred together. Diplomats argued in secure channels that never went silent. Everywhere, screens replayed fragments of sensor data from the moment the alien psychic wave had spread through the corridors. Fear, need, connection. No one could fully explain it, but no one could ignore it either. Inside the medical wing, the human sat beside the alien's bed. She was awake now, stronger than before. Color had returned to her skin, and the faint glowing lines beneath it pulsed gently, in rhythm with her breathing. She was no longer shivering. She no longer whispered in panic, but she was worried. "They will not let this continue," she said softly. "Too many watched, too many felt." He nodded. "Yeah, that sounds like command." She looked at him. "You are not afraid," he thought about that. He had faced enemy fire. Vacuum breaches, worlds that wanted him dead just for being human. Fear was familiar to him, it lived in his bones. "I am," he said honestly. "But that doesn't mean I stop." She absorbed that quietly. Hours later, the council arrived, not physically, that would have taken weeks. Instead, the largest chamber on the station filled with light as dozens of holograms activated at once. Leaders of many species appeared, tall, small, scaled, metallic, radiant. Humans were only a few among them. The human stood near the back, arms crossed, posture steady. The alien stood beside him, supported but upright. She did not hide. "Refugee 7, a counselor said, voice echoing with artificial calm. "You are the source of the psychic emission during the raid." "Yes," she replied. "You endangered this station." "I saved it," she said quietly. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. "You are biologically unstable," another counselor said. "Dependent on a single human." She lifted her chin. "No, I am remembering how to live." That caught their attention. The human felt eyes turn toward him. "Explain your actions," a human admiral demanded. "Not emotionally, strategically." The human stepped forward. "With respect," he said, "strategy kept her dying." The admiral frowned. "That is not." "She survived because of proximity," the human continued. "Not technology. Not isolation. We treated her like a problem instead of a person." An alien counselor leaned forward. "Are you suggesting we abandon medical protocol?" "No," the human said. "I'm suggesting you stop pretending protocol is perfect." Silence followed. The alien spoke again. "My people were not always like this. We once survived storms colder than your void. We did it together. Then we replaced closeness with control. We grew advanced and alone." A projection changed. Ancient data appeared, newly translated. Images of her species huddled together, sharing warmth, sharing presence. Gasps echoed. "This data was classified as cultural myth," a scientist said. "It was inconvenient," she replied. The human watched as the galaxy's smartest minds struggled with something painfully simple. One counselor finally asked the question no one wanted to voice. "How many of your people remain?" "Few," she answered, "and fewer each cycle." "And humans can help?" another asked. The human felt her glance at him. "Yes," she said, "but not as tools, as companions." That word caused unrest. Companions were unpredictable. Companions could not be controlled. The human admiral leaned back slowly. "If what you say is true," he said, "this changes interspecies relations." "It already has," she replied. A new voice joined the channel, military. Cold, distant. "This discussion is inefficient," it said. "Humans are a limited resource. Binding them emotionally to failing species weakens readiness." The human recognized that tone. High command, far away from consequences. He stepped forward again. "Sir," he said, "permission to speak freely." There was a pause. "Granted." "We've been fighting a cold universe since we left Earth," the human said. "Vacuum, radiation, distance. We adapted by building armor around everything, even ourselves. But the one thing we never stopped doing was holding the line for each other." He gestured slightly toward the alien. "She didn't come to me because I'm special. She came because I was human." The chamber went quiet. "You fear dependence," he continued. "We fear abandonment. That's the difference, and that's why this works." The council deliberated for a long time. When the decision came, it surprised everyone. A joint program was approved, small, controlled. Human volunteers paired with members of her species. No force, no ownership. Mutual consent only. The alien exhaled, a long breath she'd been holding for generations. Later, in the quiet corridor outside the chamber, she leaned against the wall, weak but smiling. "You spoke with courage," she said. He shrugged. "I just told the truth." "You risked much." "So did you," he replied. For the first time, she laughed softly. Days turned into weeks. The station changed. Humans and aliens shared spaces more openly, not just with her species. Others noticed changes too. Stress levels dropped. Cooperation increased. Conflicts resolved faster. Humans were not stronger because of weapons. They were stronger because they stayed. The human became something he never expected, an example. He trained soldiers by day, sat with the alien by night. Sometimes they spoke, sometimes they didn't. The silence was comfortable. One evening, she looked out through the viewport at the stars. "I no longer need to slip into your quarters," she said. He smiled slightly. "Good, that was going to get me in serious trouble." She smiled back, then grew thoughtful. "But I still choose to sit with you." He met her gaze. "That's different." "Yes," she agreed, "it is." A message arrived from her homeworld. A child had survived the winter for the first time in many cycles, not because of machines. Because a human volunteer had held them through the night. The alien's eyes filled with light. "You did not save just me," she said. "You reminded us who we were." He shook his head. "You reminded us too." The galaxy began to change its language. Humans were no longer labeled only as soldiers, laborers, or traitors. They were called something else. The warm ones. In reports, in whispers, in history logs. In a universe that had learned to survive alone, humanity taught it how to survive together. And it all began with a quiet knock, a whispered need, and a human who chose not to move away from the cold.